Right.
And we're now recording.
Excellent. Got it. Thank you. Okay, I declare we have, no, wait a minute. What am I doing? I'm calling to order the Nantucket Roads and Right-of-Way Committee for November 16th. I declare we have a quorum present. And first item on the agenda is public comment, and seeing none, we'll move to item number 2, which is approval of the minutes from October 19. Any errors, omissions, questions about the minutes from the 19th of October, our last meeting? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Moved.
Oh, hey, Nat, welcome.
I'm here.
So I've got Nat Lowell moving, and Rick, did you second?
That sounds good to me.
Right. Okay, all in favor, we'll do a voice count. Lee,
Aye.
Rick,
Aye.
Phil,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
and is there anyone I'm missing here?
Bill Greeter.
Oh, Bill, I'm sorry. I was looking at the speaker view, not the gallery view, so let me switch over here. All right.
That was
And
an aye.
Bill's
Bill,
vote.
there we go. Bill, was that an aye?
Correct.
Great. Okay, minutes are approved unanimously. The next item, number 3. There's been a lot of discussion about Chapter 91, and of course we've gone over. We've talked about Chapter 91, and in fact we did that. It wasn't us; it was the Civic League who did that forum about the Chapter 91. Enough questions have come up as to what it is, what's our focus, what's the role of the Roads and Right-of-Way Committee with regard to Chapter 91. Now, the obvious answer to that question is that Chapter 91 deals with public access, and it mandates public access to, well, I won't say mandates, to the waterfront and so on. So I wanted to put that on our agenda for discussion of what our role should be or what our role can be with regard to Chapter 91. Now, the main thing we've been after for a while is getting those notices of which properties have Chapter 91 in our hands, so that we can, I don't know what I guess so we can assist with the enforcement by noting any places where there should be a Chapter 91 license and there isn't. So I throw that out for, or put that out for discussion as far as views on Chapter 91. And Rick, we've had several conversations. Do you want to chime in on that?
Sure. On the Chapter 91, I did have a chance to meet with Jeff Carlson. This is probably a month ago now. And then Lee and I had some subsequent discussions, and Jeff provided me with access to his notebook and so forth. I think it's clear he would like support, and one idea, for example, he had getting to the notice issue, Alan, was to establish a roads and right-of-way mailbox, if you will, on under the auspices of the town, and ask the state, like the individual who spoke at the Civic League Forum, to add that mailbox as a recipient or the Roads and Right of Way Committee with that address so that all the notices he sends out, whenever that is appropriate, would come to us directly. And that seemed like a great idea. It may not be all that easy to implement, but it would be a great start in helping the notification process.
Oh,
Jeff also said he'd be very happy to come and meet with us at an appropriate time.
Right.
And Lee had a nice long email back to Jeff about that. And I think he's ready to do that when we're ready, Alan.
okay. It's funny, well, all right. What
I
I'll
would
do-
mention one other example, just one other follow-up example. When I met with him, I mentioned the property at, is it 46 Easton? And Nat, you may know, this is the one right next to the White Elephant.
42, I believe it is.
40,
Oh.
I'm not sure what the number is.
Yeah,
Are you talking about on which side? You're talking about on the ocean side, obviously.
no, Harbor side.
Yeah,
That's what
I
I
think
meant.
of it as the north.
That's what I meant. You're talking about that place, what's the name of it? The Cuddy? The little Cuddy place?
Yeah.
It says the Cuddy on the
I
front.
don't know. It went to the Concom and they got approval for a renovation and a new building and a reconstruction or something. But the issue of the Chapter 91 license, which is on the property and might be available with the proper, approach to have additions to it that make clear we should connect that property to the Chapter 91 license requirements for the White Elephant. I mean, right now you go to the end of the White Elephant, you sort of drop off the end
Right.
of a bulkhead. And there might be a way to connect those properties
No,
to
we've already
work
got the
on.
meeting going.
our
We're
harbor
on
wall.
board.
And I think Jeff was interested in that. And he,
Oh, I may have to
I
admit
think there are
to,
times when he needs someone else to be
that's the
willing to
problem.
chime in to say this is a good idea.
My fault. You should be on board now.
Oh. It's coming in.
There we
So,
go.
Alan,
Yes,
while we're trying to figure out how to get on the state distribution list, it would seem to be rather easy for Concom or for Jeff's group to just simply forward all those notices while we're trying to, wade through the minutia of getting officially added to the distribution list.
it's a good point. What I'll do is I'll extend an invitation to Jeff to attend our next meeting. And we'll see if we can make that work. Back to Rick's point, as far as the that section on Easy Street. The land bank had looked.
Sorry, I'm engaged in a Zoom call. I'll see if I can get her. Okay,
Okay.
yeah, please. Bye.
All right, so back to, as far as Rick's point, that property right after the White Elephant, you used to be able to walk along the bulkhead there in front of the White Elephant, and then could step down onto that nice little beach at 42 Easton Street. I believe that property did sell for quite a few $1 million, as they all seem to do down there. The land bank did look at that. We were briefly interested because of the beach that little beach that they had there. But that is sort of a block. You used to be able to walk from the White Elephant, where there was a sign along the boardwalk that goes in front of there, with a Chapter 91, public access statement. That sign, I noticed, is no longer there. And when you get to the end of the bulkhead, there is a fence where you used to be able to step down onto that little beach there. So that would be a good one to follow up on as an example. Um, all right. Hmm. All right, so I'll contact Jeff Carlson once we decide when we're going to have our next meeting. And I'll offer an invitation to him to come in so he can hear directly from the committee what we're about. So Ken, did you have anything in particular?
No, I just was curious as to whether or not the map project with respect to public access to ponds, harbors, tidelands, and the ocean is something that I should be concerned about.
Well, basically what we're attempting to do here is to map where the access points are to the water. And we recognize that the numbering system that the town uses, there are, I believe, 50 or 51 access points that they include. Those are not all on public property. Many of the ones that aren't are on either land bank or conservation foundation property, so they do provide access. So the idea is to pull together a map that shows where the legal access points are to the harbor, the ponds, the other, other wetlands. So that's the intent of the program. I don't think there's, well, I'm not sure. There probably is something that you would want to look at for.
No, I was just curious. I thought that was what you would be, so I would just like to be kept apprised of the progress that you're making. So.
Oh, okay, absolutely. Well, I'll do that.
And I don't have anything. I don't have anything else with respect to that I was concerned about with respect to the meeting. But I would happy to answer any questions because Rick's got his hand up.
Yeah, Rick.
Yeah, I just to sort of remind us, Lee, Phil, and I had a very productive meeting with Nathan Porter, and he was very helpful. And as he has time, this isn't a high priority for him compared to his other activities, but as he has time, he agreed to develop a layer in the GIS system that identified all the public access points we're aware of and more as we become aware. And I think that was a wonderful step forward. It'll take time. And I think and Phil and Lee can chime in. I just thought he was very responsive.
It's good.
Yeah, and he is, of course, a very key person because he has all the detailed maps of, well, pretty much detailed maps of who owns what and where those points are. So, Bill, did you want to chime in?
I would just say that I think if it would be helpful if we get Nathan to come to our next meeting or one of our next meetings, maybe we want to spread it out. So if you're going to have Jeff Carlson at one meeting, we can have Nathan at another meeting. But I think it would be helpful for Nathan to brief the entire committee on what he has and what he doesn't have and what he could have with our help.
Right. Okay, that's a good point. Now, you've already discussed with him what he's got and the questions that he has. Some of the roads that are not, he's not sure whether they're public or private, and that's
And that's a separate subject. In other words,
Right.
And he did this about a year ago where he gave us a printout of all the roads that were public, non-public, and what he didn't know. So that's separate from the beach access. I think what we decided at that time is let's focus on the beach access and not, spend all of our time on roads that we don't
Exactly.
know what they are. But I think that for example, I looked at the 45 or whatever it is, access points where we supposedly have a monument with public access to the harbor and to the beaches, and I don't think those are all reflected in what he's got.
Oh,
And so that's something I can clarify with him before he comes to our meeting.
Okay,
I think-
good point.
Yeah,
Rick?
a clarification would be good, but he has that, and I think it was pretty clear at our meeting that over time, he would identify those points from the information we gave him, and be able to at least start, and I think that's a great beginning. We also sent him the chapter 91 list contained at the end of the harbors plan, and Jeff Carlson has his own initial list in a similar format. And he agreed to send Nathan his Excel spreadsheet of those licenses and locations. So he has a lot of data to begin with at this point.
Great, good.
Well, why don't I do this between now and our next meeting? Let me get a hold of Nathan and let me find out where we are in terms of where he is. Does he have all 45 or whatever those points that we think are public access?
Right.
And that's something I can just do with him. We don't need other people involved in that. I mean,
Okay, that would be good. That would be a good place to start. Maybe let's move to, or not move to, but let's consider for just a moment our next meeting. We're scheduled to meet on December 21st, which is I think Monday before Christmas or Tuesday before Christmas, somewhere in there. What's the committee's feeling about meeting on the 21st? Yes, no, maybe?
Fine with it.
I'll be here.
Yeah, I'll be here.
Yeah.
All right.
Alan, this is Lee.
Yes,
I'll
Lee.
be in London. I should be able to join. I have joined in the past via Skype. I
Right.
should be able to join with Zoom. I should be able to open the meeting. Of course, it'll be 9 o'clock in the evening and I might have had a glass of wine.
It's all good.
Should make.
I
the-
like the English
meeting more
version when you do
interesting.
it.
Great. Okay, so it sounds like the consensus is that the 21st does work. Good, all right.
And Phil, when you pull that list from Nathan, would you send me a copy of it as well? Because it's something, it ties into something else I'm working on.
Well, I need to find out what list he has.
Yeah, no,
before-
understood. Yeah,
So
whatever,
that's where we need to find out where we are.
whatever it is, that'd be helpful to me. Thank you.
Good, all right. Rick?
Alan, are you through with chapter 91? Otherwise, I ought to report on my conversation regarding Dylan and Julian Sears vote, a bill. Because I had a conversation which I said I would undertake with Dylan Fernandez.
Oh, yes, indeed. Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to leave the meeting now. but Thank you, guys. Sorry.
All right.
It'll be short and sweet. Thanks.
Excellent, thanks.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Thanks, Ian.
Great. Okay, Rick?
Right, so we've had a couple of discussions on their bill, which I believe is sitting in a committee someplace in Boston, to add the word recreation to the chapter 91 provisions. And I had agreed to follow up going through Charity Brace, and then Dylan called me back. I think it's clear he understands a bill such as this is a long-term process. There will be a certain level of opposition, as there have been to other such initiatives in the state previously. I think it's fair to say that he and Julian both believe in the public policy elements of this, that the beaches in Massachusetts ought to be more accessible than they are under that ancient
Long
bill back in prehistoric times. And he recognizes, he's knowledgeable. He knows about the state of Maine. He knows about the fact that Massachusetts is one of the most restrictive states in the country. And he doesn't think that's good long-term public policy. But that doesn't mean a bill such as this is just going to go right through, and he recognizes it's a long-term process, if at all. I think he would be receptive to public entities such as ours or our select board, if they could find a way to support his initiative, even if not the specific language. We had some extensive discussions last meeting from Ken Bogrand's comments and others, and I can understand those concerns, but to me, the longer term perspective of the roads and right of way ought to be to support more public access to our beaches than we have in this state. And there, I think, can be ways to say that and do that without opening up the Pandora of perhaps the specific language of the bill. Anyway, I want to bring that to the attention of the committee members to think about. I would hate that our public policy was that, as a committee, that we don't support the concept or the policy behind the bill's initiative, and find a way to go forward in some way. So those are sort of my comments.
Rick, this is Lee. Is it possible at our next meeting for you to give us a short statement that we could endorse? And by endorsing, I think I mean that we would be asking the select board to forward it to our legislators.
I'd be happy to do that. Let me just try and the kind of thing I envision that might be more receptive to all of us. We support and ask the select board to support the intent of the bill as a matter of public policy to allow more access to the Commonwealth's beaches or something to that effect. And recognizing it's a long-term process. Otherwise, we will remain and soon to be, I think, the most restrictive state in the country. And I just don't think that's in the interests of the majority of the Commonwealth citizens. So, but I'd be happy to work on that, and anybody else who has ideas, let's hear them.
Good, thank you. Bill?
I was going to say, Rick, that you can certainly circulate it in advance of the agenda of the meeting. Open meeting law says that we may vote on it, but we can always offer you our suggestions so that when you come up with the version that you'd like us to support, it can go into the agenda.
That sounds fine.
Good. Bill?
I would think, since we are an advisory board, we don't have any clout or jurisdiction. I agree with what Rick is talking about doing. I think it's, even if we aren't totally on board with the whole idea, at least to ask the board, the select board, to get involved in it, to review it, discuss it, and have it as an agenda item for public input. Because that's our role. Our role is to advise the select board. And we can say we agree, we disagree, even if we all disagree with it. I think it's up to us to bring it to the attention of the governing board, which is in this case the select board, and have them weigh in on it. You know, just as the sidewalk discussion that we had a couple of meetings ago, when Ed coined the phrase, roads and right-of-ways mission is to figure out how to get from A to B, not how to build the bridge or the sidewalk to get you from A to B. So I support Rick's intent, and I think we should, at the very least, do that.
And I think that's, I think you've described our role as a committee as far as giving advice making recommendations, let's put it that way, to the select board. And I agree. I think that the plan that Rick has outlined would be a good one to advance the concept of, what we're after here.
Yeah.
Ed?
I agree with you. I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, I think it's all about rationality, and I think that's a lot of what we're about here. Is we're trying to improve safety, we're trying to improve how you get to the place, and we're trying to improve access to points that we should have access to, and identify where these points are anyway, so we know where we want to provide access. I guess it's a simple thing.
Exactly. Yeah, I think kind of like the Greenway project that we've been working on for a while, putting together, making a map of the trail systems that exist and so on. And that project it's been slow, been working on that for years, but we have made incremental steps along the way. And I think we're on the verge, as far as that particular project, of having an island-wide map that points out where all these trail systems are, how they link together, and all that sort of thing. So I think the concept here, as far as our map to the public access points around, to the water around the island is similar to that, as far as what we're trying to achieve here. Ed?
I excuse me, I agree. And I think, once we finish with that one, the railway, the Nantucket Central Railway is along the same course, and actually even the Chapter 91. I mean, the fact that we want to go, someday from Brant Point Lighthouse, or perhaps Jetty's Beach even,
Mhm.
all the way to the new park in Monomoy over Lucille Hayes's property. I mean, that would be a wonderful thing to go traverse,
Mhm.
these various trails across Nantucket. I mean, they're not exactly those right of ways, those horse trails that run across English countrysides, but it's somewhat similar. So the public can have access to across properties to get from A to B, basically.
Exactly. And that, by the way, was the start of the Cross Island Trail system, was looking at the system that they have in England, or in Great Britain, I should say, with maps of the trails and so on. Okay, I just lost my train of thought here. All right. So I think we're on to something with this map of the Chapter 91 and so on. Let me just write this down before I forget here.
Well,
Well, we have biking as well. I mean, the component, the public access is also in terms of, like we have biking, and there is a lot of, there is various easements over properties to land bank properties, Alan, across some of these places, to Audubon land, and not necessarily to land bank property, but across the land bank was instrumental in some of these things to lead to Audubon properties and things like that. So a lot of people don't know they exist.
Yeah. Well, I think we're pulling them together now, and one of the things that's happened as far as that map project is that once it gets rolling, people from different groups start to look at it in different ways, and I think that's what's happened. Certainly among the conservation groups on the island that control much of the open space and many of the trails. They also maintain those trails as well. By the way, the railroad trail that Ed just mentioned, there is a section of it that goes from Surfside, well, actually from South Shore Road out to where the hotel used to be in Surfside. There is a mode path along that route. There is a bit of it at the Easy Street Park. If you've been into the park, you notice the two rails that come along that indicate where the train departed the wharf and crossed over the filled tidelands there. Anyway, as far as the map project with the public access points on it, I think, this is similar to the work that we have done on the bike paths, for example, connecting the bike paths. Remember, that's been one of our goals with, as far as the sidewalks, as far as the other recommendations that we've made over the years. So, yes, Ed?
Not totally off the subject, but the railway you mentioned, the pieces of the indication of the railway path across the Easy Street Park, did it cross the electric company land to get to the Washington Street, and Washington Street extension and go across that way? How did it get to Washington Street from Easy Street, let's say? Did it go across like where the Dreamline is now? I mean, I don't know. Where did the rail actually run to get to Washington Street?
It went across the intersection of Straight Wharf and Easy Street, and then right along the waterfront, basically parallel to Washington Street. And I've screwed up my Zoom. I'm going to get there in a minute. I don't know what I did.
We're seeing you though.
Uh-oh. So anyway,
Just found a button that said exit minimized video. It worked. Sorry, Alan,
That's okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. So Ed, in answer to your question, as Lee said, it went pretty much along the waterfront. The as you go around the lily pond, or not the lily pond, the
Consu Springs there.
right.
If
Consu Spring, thank you.
Where the bike path is, right?
Right, where the bike path is. In fact, the bike path included part of that berm was there because of the railroad.
Yeah.
And then it crossed over Orange Street. I'm just trying to.
Alan, as you progress, that's why Old Spouter Inn, which is now the Art Gallery, and Hatches are skewed to Orange Street,
Right.
but they were parallel to the railroad.
All right.
Yeah.
We do have a map of the routes of the railroad. Joe Marklinger, who was a member of the committee for a while, he went to Boston and got a map of the or we pulled up a map, let's say, of where the Surfside route went, and then where the Cross Island went out to Tom Nevers and so on. And he also purchased the name, the Nantucket, what is it?
Central Railway. Central.
In fact, there were three companies, two of which went bankrupt and one of which ended. So it was Nantucket Railroad, Nantucket Central Railroad, and then Nantucket Railroad once again, which survived until it closed in 1918.
Right. And I forget which one he bought the name to. You can purchase names apparently. And so he had purchased so we could use the name, and I forget if it was Nantucket Central Railroad or Nantucket Railway.
I think it was Nantucket Central from looking at the minutes of it's always come up as Nantucket Central in our list of projects and whatnot. So it must have been that, I would say.
Yeah.
So Ed, going back to your original question, the bulkhead by this new park is a curve because it reflects the curve of the railroad.
Right.
Easy Street was a trestle. It was not a street. It was a wooden trestle that
Ah,
supported the railroad. And of course, then what we now call Easy Street crosses Straight Wharf, where Straight Wharf becomes Main Street, and then carries on, is it Candle Street?
well, so must have followed over past the Anglers Club and out that way. Is that what you're talking about before he got to Washington and all that? That's the connection.
No. Further inland.
Oh,
So where Easy Street crosses into, I think it's Candle Street, and then in front of the American Legion,
oh,
the railroad then progressed along the waterfront. The engines were stored right across from Fayette Street, I believe,
they claim
until
that-
it was pointed out that they were deteriorating in the wintertime. And so a engine shed and maintenance facility was built right at that point. And of course, then as Alan pointed out, the railroad continued Washington Street extension, the bike path around, call it the Duck Pond or the Goose Pond. I think the formal name is Goose Pond, but there are more ducks than geese there. And then up to Old Spouter, crossing Orange at Hatches, up alongside to the point at Dave Street, where it basically crossed the land at the Sparks Avenue Rotary.
And it went behind Nosham, as I recall, yes.
Well, the old route would have then gone along Hooper Farm Road out to Surfside. When that didn't work out, you're absolutely right. You can still find the roadbed on the water company land or alongside Hinsdale Road. Hinsdale Road was the maintenance road for the railway.
Wow,
It paralleled. So the roadbed is in the woods next to Hinsdale Road. There's a trace of it on the airport and then out into the moors.
wow. There we go. We need a Bermuda Rail Trail coming up here soon.
I know because the train needed to be on relatively level ground with all the hills and so on that it would traverse, they had to build a railroad bed, and that railroad bed does follow. You can follow it on the trail that goes out to Surfside, behind Hinsdale, the one that Lee just mentioned, and across Water Company land. Again, there's a berm that goes along that was the railroad bed. And then it goes across land bank property behind,
I'll shut Valero's.
yeah, Valero's and so on. And the land bank has cleared a trail on top of the railroad bed, so you can actually go along part of that parallel to Hinsdale Road. And then it turned off across the moors. The railroad bed also exists all the way through Tom Nevers and down Salisbury Road to get into Sconset. So
Salisbury was one of the governors of the company.
Ah,
I think he also worked for the railroad. He may have been a station master.
interesting.
So anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't need to get us off.
Yeah, we have diverted a little bit here.
We have just a bit. I guess that really brings us to the next item on our agenda, the number 5. The project list at the bottom of the agenda, I did, after that was pointed out that there were some errors in that, I did go through and readjust the outstanding projects list. What did I want to say about that? Oh, so for each one of these projects, we started out with there was a goal. That's why that's how these projects came about. The Public Way Monument Project, one of our earliest projects, goes back to our right-of-way improvement plan, which was in 2008, where we made a presentation to the, at that time, Board of Selectmen. And we proposed a number of different ways that public access could be improved. And among them, we're identifying some of the ways to the water and so on. That's what led to the Public Way Monument Project. That project has been stalled for the last 3 years because we have granite monuments, but we didn't have any way to get them into the ground. The committee itself was, we were the ones who actually dug the holes and put those, the initial posts, those granite posts in the ground. And we did have some help with a bobcat and so on. So that project, we still have some posts to install. We do have the posts, they're behind 2 fairgrounds where we used to meet. And I believe we have 6 upright posts and we have probably 6 flush monuments to put in the ground. Now, with regard to that project, one of the things that we did with that one was we made a recommendation to the select board to take the ways along Hobart Avenue to the water. Those ways have pretty much been taken. I think there's still some question about not Johnson Street, but the one of them that are down there with a split driveway. But those have been taken. We have put flush markers in the ground. We never just came up with a solution to how do we mark those roads from the beach? Again, because we're sort of on the threshold of private property there. And so anyway, what I've done here, I've condensed the projects to the 4 that are at the bottom of the agenda. The Public Way Monument Project, which we have some monuments yet to install. The Sidewalk Project, and those are, we did make a recommendation for the Prospect Street to Upper Vestal, the different connections where sidewalks are missing. We have those before the select board and they are mulling those over currently.
Alan, before you leave monuments, we should consider, maybe just you and I should consider the fact that the monuments at the bike path on the railway route against the Goose Pond disappeared during the construction period.
Oh, that's good.
I don't know where they are, but
Mhm.
do we need to replace them now that it is so well marked as a bike path?
Probably not, because it is so clearly identified. You're correct. We did have one of our granite monuments at both ends of the section that went out behind the lily pond, or no, behind
Goose Pond.
that other pond, Kansu Spring. So, Lee, in answer to your question, we do have the monuments to go in the ground for the places where we haven't marked them. And I would agree, I don't think we need to replace those 2 at the old railroad path that goes along the waterfront there, because it is it's become part of the fabric of the bike path system on there.
Okay, thank you.
The other projects, the sidewalk project, the Chapter 91 project that we talked about earlier in the meeting, and the Greenway, the Greenway Trail project, which I mentioned just a little while ago. Those are all in some state of progress, I like to think. We still have, I think the goals are fairly clear for what we're trying to do for each one of those. The public way monuments, of course, we want to get those in place. The sidewalk projects, we want to get those clarified. The Chapter 91 project, as we discussed earlier in this meeting, we want to get a list of where those public access points are and keep abreast of where the Chapter 91 licenses need monitoring, let's put it that way. And then, of course, the Greenway, the trail project, that's definitely a work in progress. And I think the ultimate goal there is the land bank is planning to publish an island-wide map, trail map, that will contain all the walking trails on various conservation properties. So those are the goals of the project. And I just want to put it out there for the commission to see what other thoughts you might have about those projects.
So you've got two raised hands, Alan, Bill Greeter and Ed Gillum.
Yes, I see. We'll go Bill first and then Ed.
Just a quick question. Knowing that the DPW has their own tale of woes, are we on an active put us in when you can list, or are we just assuming that since Rob knew about it, that the stand-in knows about that or whatever? The reason I ask is it seems some projects are being done that you go, oh, I didn't realize they would consider that a priority over some of the others. So it appears that sometimes they're looking for fillers for crews to do, and they're grabbing quick projects. And the placement of the monuments that you're waiting to place may in fact be able to fill a role of a, oh, we got 2 hours left in the day kind of project.
Yes, as you're aware, the DPW is in, I won't say a state of chaos right now, because they are definitely getting their act together out there. I have been in touch with Stephen and not Anderlew. He's it was Steve, who's the new or at least
Alan, Phyllis Ruguaru.
Well, Phyllis is the office manager out there at the DPW.
Yeah.
And I've been in pretty frequent touch with Phyllis out there regarding the cemeteries, because we there were some mix-ups, let's put it that way, with cemetery records and so on. So I spent a fair amount of time with the DPW and with Phyllis, who's the office manager there. And I've also talked with Stephen Anderlew, who's the, I don't know, the acting, let's put it that way. He's the acting director of the DPW.
Oh, Arsenault, Alan.
Arsenault, thank you. In fact, I was out there this morning, and I talked with Richard Morris. Mo is the one who is the sort of project manager of getting things done. So I did speak with him at some length. This was about clearing the public ways, specifically the Sconset Bluff path and some of the other those ways that we have marked with our posts. Again, it's the DPW that handles doing those. And so where was I going with that? So anyway, in answer, Bill, to your question, we are in touch with the DPW in terms of these projects. I do make them aware of, what we're waiting for. And they're moving as expeditiously as they can, I think is how it was put, to resolve some of those. So I don't know if that answers your question, Bill, but I do meet periodically with them and make them aware of the projects that we're concerned with.
Alan, if I may add to that, and I don't mean to cut into Ed's time, but some of our recommendations depend upon work in the planning department, and we're hung up without a transportation planner.
Exactly.
And that includes new bike paths, new sidewalks, connectors, and so forth. There are a lot of those that would be ready to run, and I hope ready to run when federal funding comes to the state. If the plans can be developed to the point where they can be put out to bid.
Right.
Ed?
First of all, this is a great way to put the projects in kind of an order, and the way you've done this, so you can look at them and kind of understand each of the kind of sections and what's involved. I do think our role has got to be the squeaky wheel in all this, whether it's to the planning board, whether it's to the select board, whether it's DPW. I mean, obviously there's funding and boots on the ground that are necessary to get them done. But I had another question, and this goes back to monuments only briefly. I know we have these heavy posts, these ground plaques and whatnot. Might we move toward perhaps, I mean, even in conjunction maybe with the Historical Association or something along this lines, like the across Constitute Springs, for instance, the bike path. There's no need to say there's a public access way there because it's pretty obvious. But it might be nice to say, to have a plaque someday that says this is the bed for the railway, for down the line. And they don't have to be these cumbersome large posts as much, but it could be something along the lines of what the land bank does, or one of the other conservation outfits. So a little bit smaller, a little bit more easy. I mean, a couple of us could put it in, that kind of thing. I'm just thinking ahead with some of these projects that actually dovetail, like when you do get the railway, it'd be nice to have the places identified. This Cross Island map, I assume, is eventually going to have, milestone posts that explain what's going around. And they'll probably have like a digital flow code or something on it to tell you what's happening in the flora and fauna or whatever, perhaps even. So, I mean, as we look toward the future, I think that some of these different projects, different posts, they could have different kind of signage, different kinds of monuments, I guess. I don't know. I just throwing that out there to see if that's an idea. And maybe there's a way to have cross-referencing to the Historical Association for the railway, for another association, maybe some of these well-funded and quicker moving operations. I don't know.
It's an excellent idea. And by the way, if you've been in the Easy Street Park recently, there is a sign about the railroad, gives a little description of how the railroad ran. There's a picture of it and so on. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. The more we can tap into the history of the island and the significant places. Yeah, I think
Alan, you created you created something like 50 markers in Squam Swamp, the circular walkway.
Yeah,
And each of those links to a little paragraph in the paper handout. So today we could reproduce that with a pamphlet. But as Ed says, we could also have a little QR code. You flash it onto your phone and up comes not only the paragraph, but photographs and anything else associated with that point.
could become a good long-term kind of project to flesh out these projects. I mean, maybe the beach access might say where someone famous went skinny dipping. I don't know, you know, whatever. But humor aside, though, it could, you know, there's a lot of history in these paths that could be kind of
Ed,
road.
the author Gilbreth, cheaper by the dozen, lived on Hulbert Avenue, and his house had a little non-conforming lighthouse on it.
Yeah.
When the family
Bug lights.
when the
Dude,
family
oh,
went
bug
to
lights.
have it rebuilt, they got permission to escape HDC requirements on the lighthouse.
True, and over in the field behind there, there's a little building with a slate roof that sits in the middle of what's now a wetland that used to be where the kerosene was kept to make those bug lights work, apparently.
Yeah.
There's a lot of history like that around. I would say one of the things that's happening certainly at the Land Bank and also in the Conservation Foundation is the use of those QR codes or the flow codes. The Land Bank is working on naming the different properties. We have a list of names. The next step is to have for each one of the parking areas to have the name of that particular property, for example, Sanford Meadows, whatever that property might be called, and to have on the post there the QR code or the flow code that people can bring up that sort of information. So that is something that's happening out in the background there, you know, with trying to spread the word. Okay, is there any other comments on wait a minute, let me just check. Old, new, other business.
Projects, Alan.
Right, projects. Oh, roundabouts and rotaries, I'm forgetting that. Okay, is there anything else on the projects list? Good. The roundabouts and rotaries. I think where we have left that is to wait until the town has hired the person who deals with that, with the
A transportation plan.
transportation planner. Thank you. You know, I think we discussed it at some length,
Yeah.
how we feel about rotaries and roundabouts and all that sort of thing. And so the status of that is that we'll simply wait until they get a transportation planner and then work with the transportation planner, you know, sharing whatever insights we might be able to bring to the establishment of rotaries and roundabouts. So,
Alan, I have strong opinions on the benefits of roundabouts and rotaries, particularly for Nantucket that forbids traffic lights. And I've already written to Andrew some time ago an email. I'd like to share that with the committee, my thoughts in writing, and just to have it handy for such time as we take up the issue formally.
okay.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, can I just make a comment on this a little bit? I've been doing a little bit of thinking about this when I saw it on here, and I was, you know, the planning gets blamed for everything, even like how many people are here, which is amazing. And with all this pushback around lately, all these little neighborhood arguments that are going on, it's pretty obvious what's going on. I got to thinking about something, Alan, that you're gonna remember like yesterday. Others were not here, Lee not here yet, but might remember First Way. Rick knows about this. First Way, Alan.
I remember it well.
Remember when you would think that fixing First Way was building a nuclear power plant behind the school?
Hmm.
There was so many people against it. It was like, it was crazy. Like, it was like impossible to get that, ever improve that road. And then, I don't know what it was, 10 years later, at one of our meetings in the back of 2FG with the big electric heater coming on, making all that noise. Somebody came in, I can't remember who it was. I don't remember if it was a letter, but somebody asked when we were gonna fix it.
Hmm.
And I said, well, nobody ever told us they wanted to because everybody didn't want to. Sorry, we didn't get that letter in the mail. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. That's the way Nantucket operates. And so I was jotting down some notes about this roundabout thing, and I think a way to discuss this topic without strictly talking about roundabouts is, what is an appropriate road improvement on Nantucket that isn't out of character with Nantucket's character, whatever, you know, like we have the widest road on Nantucket is Vespa Lane. So just so you know. So, you know, Sconset Road is narrower than most of the roads. You'd be surprised how narrow that is compared to others. So we have Lover's Lane is going to get paved. There's going to be a bike path.
Mhm.
If I said that was going to happen in 2010 at this committee, I would have been like, probably thought I better get into a mental institution, okay? But now it's going to happen. And look what it took. So it's all in the same discussion as the roundabouts. It takes us so long to accept something that's the right thing, that we go through pain, suffering, elections, people get kicked out of office. The thing with the stop sign on Old South Road was one of them. I'm just saying, it's brutal. It is. And it's getting, like, I feel like I've been doing this for 40 years instead of 18. It's crazy. But it's getting to the point where I think there's going to end up being a movement of 20-somethings asking the town why we don't put roundabouts in. If that happens, I'll know I've been right all along, okay? Because it's just crazy. So I think that we should talk about it, not about roundabouts. We should speak to it as appropriate improvements that fit Nantucket. And I really believe that. Like, we're never going to have traffic lights. That's the worst idea in the world. That's never going to happen here. But roundabouts are perfect, like Lee said, for us. There's 6 spots that need roundabouts on Nantucket, 6 places.
Correct.
So I just thought I'd throw in the First Way and this whole Lover's Lane thing and sort of some of these other improvements and just kind of tie it together, because they're all related to that same argument that people make against these things. And before you know it, everybody's in favor of it before you realize that they were. So that's all. I'm just throwing that at you.
Yeah,
because
I agree. It's a good point, and that's one of the things that our committee has done over the years. You know, we just keep suggesting, and eventually something happens. Ed?
Again, our committee has a function as a squeaky wheel,
Exactly.
but we also need to bring in, and the way these things often work, and, you know, we have to bring in traffic safety. I mean, that's obviously a paramount issue when these things come up. And it's like Nat says, as you see these little neighborhood squabbles come out, you've got to start enlisting the people that live the closest to the effect, I guess, or, you know, and if you get a few of those people's on your side, or they're saying we need a roundabout here, I can't cross the road, or I can't cross here, I almost get hit, whatever, you're halfway to winning the battle. And it seems to me from my short period of 40 years on Nantucket that that a lot of things get done after people say no to them at least twice. So
Yeah, exactly.
you just got to keep bringing them back to someone finally says yes. The people that said no aren't there anymore or whatever. But it tends to happen.
Yeah. Well, good. I think that, that's why our committee has been successful over the years, is because we have been the squeaky wheel, because we pointed to issues like the ones we've been discussing today. Okay, is there anything else to come before our meeting today? Seeing none. I declare we are at the end of our agenda. And unless anyone has any other business to come before the committee this afternoon, I declare that we are adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
See you,
Sorry, that was quick.
see you in
I'm gonna shut us
December,
down.
December 21st.
Thank you for your help.
Thank you.
Great. Thank
Alan,
you all for your support and help on this. So,
Alan, in anticipation of the 21st, I'm leaving on the 10th. We need to set you up to become a host if I can't connect. I think I will be able to connect, but I'm, it's like taking an umbrella outside and then you know it won't rain.
yeah.
Lee?
No, I definitely realize that I need to educate myself on how to become a host and do all this
Lee?
stuff. Yeah, Bill?
Lee, feel free, if it helps Alan, it's tough to run a meeting and do some of the Zoom stuff sometimes. So feel free if need be to share me in that responsibility. I do the hosting for the MCA group.
Okay.
A couple of others, so.
Does anybody in the group have Zoom committee credentials?
Yeah, I do.
Bill,
Right.
okay, because that's what I use.
Yeah, I use through Erica, right? Do you use Town 2?
Again, Bill?
Town 2, they get,
Yes.
yeah,
So you're.
Yeah, I'm Zoom committee 1.
yeah, we have, I'm on Zoom committee 2, so Erica could just lob that
Okay.
over if she has to.
When I get the minutes ready, which will be sometime this weekend, I'll compose an email to you and Alan and Erica and explain how I think it's going to work, but if it doesn't, where we would need help.
Sure.
Okay?
Excellent.
I'm going to shut down now. Thank you all.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks,
All right.
everyone.
Take care.
Please.